Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I am Dr. Rabia Koor, an assistant professor of zoology at University of Education. I am the course instructor of applied ecology. And today I will discuss about the biogeochemical cycle of carbon and the micronutrients. As I have already discussed in my previous lecture that the term biogeochemical cycle, it refers to the cyclic movement of chemicals within the living organism as well as the non-living component of environment, that could be soil, air, water or other rocks. Due to the limited supply of elements or nutrients which are the important component of living biomass, these nutrients or these elements have to be used over and over again, and they are continuously moving from one organism to another organism and from one organism to the atmosphere, hydrosphere or the lithosphere. The atoms of each element is taken from the environment. They are made a part of an organism by several biochemical reactions, and ultimately it turns to the environment so that it can be used by another set of organism. This cyclic movement of chemicals of the biosphere between the organism and the environment is known as biogeochemical cycle. There are two phases of biogeochemical cycle, organic phase and the abiotic phase. Organic phase can be explained as the movement of elements through biotic communities via food chain, or in other words we can say that nutrients are transferred from one organism to another organism through their food particles. The abiotic phase of biogeochemical cycle can be explained as the movement of elements external to food chain, or we can say that it is the movement of elements in the non-living component of environment. Flow of nutrients in the abiotic phases is much slower than the flow of nutrients in the organic phase. The carbon is a basic constituent of all the organic compounds, and it also a major element involved in the fixation of energy by the process of photosynthesis. That's why carbon is closely tied to the energy flow in the ecosystem. The source of all the fixed carbon, both in living organism and fossil deposits, is carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide is chiefly found in the atmosphere, or it could be found dissolved in the waters over the surface of Earth. Due to the fact that the chief reservoir of carbon is atmospheric carbon dioxide, carbon cycle is also known as gaseous cycle or the atmospheric reservoir cycle. During the process of photosynthesis, carbon from the atmospheric carbon dioxide is incorporated into the production of carbohydrates, glucose, and that may be these molecules may be converted to the other organic compounds such as polysaccharides, proteins, and lipids. All the polymeric compounds containing carbon are stored in different plant tissues as food, and from them the carbon is passed on to the trophic level of herbivores or phytoparasites, or it could be retained by the plant until it serves as food for the decaying organism like decomposers. Out of all the carbon which is incorporated into the plant tissue by the process of photosynthesis, some of the carbon is returned to the atmosphere or the hydrosphere in the form of carbon dioxide as a byproduct of plant respiration. In this process, a considerable amount of glucose is oxidized to yield carbon dioxide, water, and energy. The carbon dioxide, which is released as the byproduct of plant respiration, is again used by plants in photosynthesis. This is the basic carbon cycle, which is simple and complete. Decomposing microorganisms are important in breaking down dead material and then ultimately release the carbon back into the carbon cycle. Carbon taken up by herbivores or phytoparasites may travel a number of routes. It may be incorporated into the living protoplasm by the process of assimilation and stored until the organism dies. At the death of organism, carbon can be utilized by decomposers. On the other hand, it may be released through the animal respiration. It may serve as live food for other organisms, or finally, it may be stored in the environment as carbon dioxide. Similar fates await carbon at the carnivore trophic level. In fact, all the carbon of plants, herbivores, carnivores, and decomposers is not respired, but some of that carbon is fermented and some is stored. The carbon compounds that are lost to the food chain after fermentation, such as methane, are readily oxidized to carbon dioxide by inorganic reactions in the atmosphere. As for the storage of carbon in the sediments, just as deposition work to store materials, erosion may uncover them, and inorganic chemical weathering of rock can oxidize the carbon contained here. Some carbon is permanently stored in sediments and not uncovered by weathering. This carbon may be replaced by carbon dioxide released from volcanoes and other similar intense geological activities. In recent time, man has greatly increased the rate at which carbon is passing from sedimentary form to carbon dioxide. The combustion of fossil fuel is a significant means of recycling sedimentary carbon much faster than the natural weathering. Small portion of carbon, especially in the seawater, is found not as the organically fixed carbon, but it is found as carbonate ions or in the form of calcium carbonates. Calcium carbonate is very commonly used for shell construction by different animals like clams, oysters, some protozoans, and some algae. Carbon dioxide reacts with water to form carbonate by different steps. First of all, when carbon dioxide reacts with water, it may form carbonic acid. That carbonic acid may be converted into bicarbonates, and these bicarbonates are ultimately converted into the carbonate. The precise amount of each of these constituents that are carbonic acid, bicarbonate or carbonate in the water depends on the pH of the water. Organisms such as clams can combine bicarbonates or carbonates with calcium dissolved in the water to produce calcium carbonate. After the death of the animal, this calcium carbonate may either dissolve or remain in the sedimentary form. There are certain control mechanisms which are inherent in the carbon cycle. The rate of carbon utilization is dependent on the availability of carbon. If the excessive amount of carbon are taken up by any one phase of the cycle, other phase of the activity may be inhibited or slowed down. For example, if the pH of water is alkaline, more carbon is tied up in a carbonate and less is in the form of solution. The removal of carbon in the solution form would upset the equilibrium established between the atmospheric and the dissolved carbon dioxide, and the net effect would be a movement of carbon dioxide into the solution form until an equilibrium was reached. In this figure, you can see a simplified model of the global carbon cycle with major harmful impacts of human activities shown by red arrows. The blue colored arrows represents the natural pathways through which carbon is transferred from one phase to another phase in the ecosystem. The boxes which are yellow in color, they shows the reservoirs of carbon into the ecosystem, and the boxes which are gray in color, they represents the processes through which carbon is transferred from one component to another component. Here you can see the major reservoir of carbon is atmospheric carbon dioxide, and other reservoirs includes carbon which is trapped into the plant biomass, carbon in the fossil fuel, carbon which is present in limestone or the dolomite sediments, carbon dioxide which is dissolved in ocean, or the carbon dioxide which is entrapped in the marine food webs. These all are the reservoirs of carbon. From the atmospheric carbon dioxide, carbon is incorporated into the plant tissue by the process of photosynthesis. From the plants, carbon is transferred to the consumers, or it is transferred to the atmosphere back by the process of respiration, or upon the death of plants, carbon may be transferred to the decomposing bacteria. Decomposing bacteria further, by the process of respiration, they return back carbon to the atmosphere, or they may make carbon available for the utilization of plants, or by the process of compaction, the carbon from decomposing bacteria is added to the fossil fuel deposition of deposits of carbon. When the fossil fuel are burned, the carbon is returned back to the atmosphere. In another loop of carbon cycle, we can see that the carbon which is dissolved in oceanic water, or the part of marine food webs, or the carbon which is present in limestone deposits, this carbon may be added into the carbon reservoirs of fossil fuels, or by the process of diffusion, that carbon can be transferred back into the atmosphere. If we talk about the impact of human activities, we can see that the burning fossil fuel, forest fires, deforestation, and transportation is continuously adding carbon deposits into the atmosphere. Since the start of industrial revolution, we human beings have been intervening in the Earth's carbon cycle in many ways. Two out of them, the most significant, are First of all, we are clearing trees and other plants at a much faster rate than they can grow back. These plants and trees are helpful to absorb atmospheric carbon dioxide through the process of photosynthesis. On the other hand, we are adding large amounts of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere by burning carbon containing fossil fuel and woods. This creates an imbalance of carbon into the ecosystem. Different techniques and computer models of the Earth's climate system indicate that increased concentration of atmospheric carbon dioxide and other gases are very likely to cause global warming and the change in Earth's climate. If we talk about the cycling of micronutrients, many micronutrients such as calcium, potassium, sodium, they have a similar pathway of cycling like other nutrients. They also involve the abiotic and biotic phases. These elements usually cycle within the same ecosystem and in small quantities globally. Usually the rocks are their reservoirs, and the weathering process enriches the soil and water with these elements. Though the dust of these nutrients may be blown away by the wind and carried across ecosystems, and some of their amount is lost in the runoff to the lakes and oceans and then to the deep sediments. For example, in a tropical rainforest, on average, more than 80% of the total store of these micronutrients is found in the soil, with progressively less in vegetation, litter, and the fauna. Although the concentration of trace elements tend to increase along the food chain in the sequence such as soil, then plants, then herbivores, then carnivores, and ultimately into the litter or the detritivores. For example, the concentration of iron in the rainforest was 6 parts per million in soil, 218 parts per million in vegetation, 3054 parts per million in herbivores, and 3387 parts per million in the carnivores. Most of the micronutrients become toxic to the plants in high concentration. That's all about the biogeochemical cycling of different nutrients.